Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda
Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Okay, so let's recheck my verses. I think it's from verse 127 to 130.
Yes, exactly, yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we'll read the 130 together. I'll read 127 to myself.
Okay.
इत्यादिक सर्व संगी बड़ा भक्त गाना नीलाचले रही करे प्रभुरा सेवाना. Translation. All these devotees were associates of the Lord from the very beginning, and when the Lord took up residence in Jagannath Puri, they remained there to serve him faithfully. Arayata bhakta gana gaura deshavasi pratyabde prabhure dekha nilachalasi. All the devotees who resided in Bengal used to visit Jagannath Puri every year to see the Lord. Nilachale prabhu saha prathama melana sei bhakta gane bhaktiye gananam. Now let me enumerate the devotees of Bengal who first came to see the Lord at Jagannath Puri. Okay, so now this we will all repeat together.
Jai.
Bada Sakha Eka Sarva Bhauma Bhattacharya
Saka Eka Sarva Bhoma Bhattacharya
Tandra Bhagni Pati Shri Gopinathacharya
Tara Bhagni Pati Shri Gopinathacharya
Bada Sakha Eka Sarva Bhauma Bhattacharya
Saka Eka Sarva Bhoma Bhattacharya
Tandra Bhagni Pati Shri Gopinathacharya
Tara
Tanra Bhakti Pati Shri Gopinath Acharya.
Tanra Bhakti Pati Shri Gopinath Acharya. Shakha Eko Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya.
Vada Shakha Eka Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya.
Har Bhagni Pati Shri Gopinath Acharya. Tanra Bhagni Pati Shri Gopinath Acharya.
Radha Shakha Eka Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya.
Radha Shakha Eka Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Tanra Bhagni Pati Shri Gopinath Acharya. Radha Shakha Eka Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Shakha Eka Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Tanra Bhagni Pati Shri Gopinath Acharya. Har Bhagni Pati Shri Gopinath Acharya. Radha Shakha Eka Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Tanra Bhagni Pati Shri Gopinath Acharya.
Vada Shakha Eka.
Radha Shakha Eka.
One of the biggest branches.
One of the biggest branches.
Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya.
Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya.
Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya.
Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya.
Tanra Bhagnipati.
Tanra Bhagni Pati.
His brother-in-law.
His brother-in-law.
The husband of Sarvabhaum's sister.
The husband of Sarvabhaum's sister.
Shri Gopinath Acharya.
Shri Gopinath Acharya.
Shri Gopinath Acharya.
Shri Gopinath Acharya.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Yoga Swami Prabhupada.
Jai.
Translation. There was Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya, one of the biggest branches of the tree of the Lord, and his sister's husband, Shri Gopinath Acharya. Purport. The original name of Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya was Vasudev Bhattacharya. His place of birth, which is known as Vidyanagara, is about 2.5 miles away from Navadvip railway station, or Champahati railway station. His father was a very celebrated man of the name Maheshwara Visharada. It is said that Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya was the greatest logician of his time in India. At Mithila in Bihar, he became a student of a great professor named Pakshadhara Mishra, who did not allow any student to note down his explanations of logic. Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya was so talented, however, that he learned the explanations by heart, and when he later returned to Navadvip, he established a school for the study of logic, thus diminishing the importance of Mithila. Students from various parts of India still came to Navadvip to study logic. According to some authoritative opinions, the celebrated logician Raghunath Shiromani was also a student of Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya's. In effect, Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya became the leader of all students of logic. Although he was a grahastha, householder, he even taught many sannyasis in the knowledge of logic. He started a school at Jagannath Puri for the study of Vedanta philosophy, for which he was a great scholar. When Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya met Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he advised the Lord to learn Vedanta philosophy from him. But later, he became a student of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to understand the real meaning of Vedanta. Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya was so fortunate as to see the six-armed form of Lord Chaitanya, known as Sadbhuj. A Sadbhuj deity is still situated at one end of Jagannath temple. Daily Sankirtan performances take place in this part of the temple. The meeting of Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is vividly described in Madhya Leela chapter 6. Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya wrote a book of 100 verses named Chaitanya Shataka or Shushloka Shataka. 2 other verses he wrote, beginning with the words Vairagya Vida Nija Bhakti Yoga and Kala Nashtam Bhakti Yoga Nijam Yaha, are very famous among Gaudiya Vaishnavas. The Gaura Ganodesha Dipika states that Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya was an incarnation of Brihaspati, the learned scholar from the celestial planets. Gopinath Acharya, who belonged to a respectable Brahmana family, was also an inhabitant of Navadvip and a constant companion of the Lord. He was the husband of Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya's sister. In the Gaura Ganodesha Dipika, it is described that he was formerly the Gopi named Ratnavali. According to the opinion of others, he was an incarnation of Brahma. Translation again. There was Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya, one of the biggest branches of the tree of the Lord, and his sister's husband, Sri Gopinath Acharya. Om Ajnana-timirandhasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagaranatam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Badan Sahagadana Shri Vishakam Hare Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhu Vacha Patitana Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Srimad Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabhu Kalibantor Aditya Shri Krishna Parivartita Paramananda Pathaya Premavarshi Aksharayate Sarvada Sarva Sevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namostume Adeka Bandho Matsangin Matkuro Manmahadhana Manishtaraka Madhagya Matananda Namostute Asadu Sadhu Todain Atini Chochatakara Hana Muncha Kadachin Mam Premna Het Kantayospura. So, in today's session, in the last 3 verses that we also read, we saw how every resident of Bengal used to visit Jagannath Puri, specifically during the Rath Yatra. Rath Yatra used to have like millions and millions of people since probably time immemorial, used to visit, and specifically from Bengal. It was more like a duty and a responsibility that every resident of Bengal would visit. And at that particular time, the East and the West Bengal was one unit. There was no distinction between Bangladesh and India as such. It was all one Bengal. So the population of Bengal was huge in millions, specifically during Mahaprabhu's time as well. So all of them used to visit in millions to Jagannath Puri, and you can imagine the Jagannath Puri temple was even today it's not the biggest in terms of its size, but it used to accommodate, and we see from Mahaprabhu's pastimes that like for example there's a description of an old lady who used to climb the shoulder of Mahaprabhu to see. So that's the number of people that used to go to Bengal to visit Jagannath Puri. Of course, now it's become a lot easier. If anyone's been to Jagannath Puri in the recent times, there is a really nice corridor, the Puri corridor as they call it now. It's created so much space, which is nice for having.
There are only so many houses nearby.
But if they want to bring development, I think
they are not authorized.
Oh,
really?
Oh.
I think the same thing is happening in Vrindavan now with the Bhakti Bihari corridor. But for those visiting, it creates nice atmosphere.
At least.
Because I went, I think, when was it, 2 years ago,
Mm.
and it was so nice. So much space,
Yeah.
not so much rush, such amazing darshans. You could even stand in front of Jagannath for minutes, if not seconds, to have darshan of them. So, okay, so today we are reading about a very important personality, which is Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya. And of course, there is also a few lines about Gopinath Acharya. So, as Prabhupada mentioned, Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya is actually Brihaspati. Brihaspati is like the guru of all the demigods. So he came down as well into Mahaprabhu's pastime. And in one of the places, it's also described that Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya was also a gopi who was from the Radharani's clan as well. So there are actually multiple descriptions about Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya. But here, of course, Prabhupada mentions about one, which is the Brihaspati, the learned scholar from the celestial planets. And there's also about Gopinath Acharya, of course, who was also formerly a gopi, Ratnavali, from the scriptures. And also, Prabhupada says, according to the opinion of others, he was an incarnation of Brahma. So you see, in multiple places, there are different descriptions about each of these personalities that come, and they take different forms to accommodate Krishna's pastimes together. It's so nice. And over here in this Mahaprabhu's pastimes, in general, Brihaspati was known to be a very learned person. But in this particular situation, Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya was initially more or less like a Vedantist, or also in some perspectives a Mayavadi, because of his explanations of the Vedas that he would give. So Mahaprabhu teaches us through examples of his own associates on the real Vedanta, or the conclusion of the Vedas. So, how was the actual meeting of Mahaprabhu and Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya? What happened one day when Mahaprabhu was performing kirtan in the Jagannath temple, and so much so that he fainted in that particular, of course, exhibiting the ecstasies that were so exalted that Mahaprabhu fainted at that particular point. And Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya at that particular moment was present in the temple, and he saw the exalted symptoms being showed by Mahaprabhu when he was fainting. And he asked his associates that please carry Mahaprabhu and let's take him to my house, when he was living very close by from the Jagannath temple. So all the devotees started to carry Mahaprabhu. There is even a description which describes that like how ants carry a grain of rice, or something sweet that they get. So sometimes you'll see all these ants together in a group, and there is like one big piece of some item they got. Someone's holding like one small portion some way or the other to catch a glimpse, or to catch some part of it. So the same way, like there were like hundreds of devotees who were trying to hold Mahaprabhu some way or the other. Because Mahaprabhu was actually quite a tall personality, and he is described, he had very long arms, long limbs, and of course he was heavy as well because he was very tall. But at that time he was a sannyasi, so no hair at least. But they all were carrying him like how ants used to carry a grain of rice. Some way or the other, trying to touch the transcendental body of the Lord. And of course, many times it is described that when transcendental ecstasies are depicted, the body becomes heavy as well, because of the ecstasy that comes into place. Of course, not the general ecstasy that people try to depict. Like, for example, when Prabhupada was in Mayapur, there was some random person who walked into the temple and started to show many symptoms of ecstasy, started to faint, dance, go around, so much so that the crowd had to go away from the performances that he was doing. And Prabhupada was in the temple room as well. So Prabhupada saw all these depictions of apparent ecstasy, and Prabhupada called for the security to come in and the devotees, and Prabhupada said, take him and throw him out straight away. We don't want these artificial depiction of ecstasies. And it's described that as soon as he was thrown out, that person, he immediately got up and dusted himself. I don't know if this is true, but like, apparently he took a cigarette and he started to smoke outside. Prabhupada realized it was not actual ecstasy. And even if one actually depicts ecstasy, one should not show it in public.
In
Of
Bangladesh,
course.
it's still there.
Sorry?
In Bangladesh, it's still there.
It still happens. Yeah. Well, we can just stay away from such.
We don't have this problem in France.
I mean, we might have this problem with people taking drugs and falling into that ecstasy. Like the other day, I was taking the metro. Like the other day, I was taking the metro line, and there was a person like just flat on the metro floor and just like wobbling around over there, and everyone took their distance.
Pain is obeisances.
Obeisances in ecstasy to someone. So no, not that ecstasy we're talking about. So Mahaprabhu exhibited that exalted ecstasy. So when Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya actually took him home, he allowed him to rest in a particular place, and he did not wake up for hours and hours together. Mahaprabhu was still fainted. So what Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya did was that he took a small piece of cotton, he put it on his nose to see if he was even alive or not. But the cotton was moving, so Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was like, okay, he's actually in ecstasy. But that's when he realized that this form was actually very exalted. It was not normal to see this particular instance. And again, it's described that Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya went to the Jagannath temple, had darshan, came back, but he was still fainted, and Mahaprabhu did not wake up. And then he called all the devotees again, and he said, please sing different bhajans, so that hearing the bhajans, Mahaprabhu would wake up. I forgot which bhajan they sang. It was in my mind. Yeah, they sang one particular bhajan, and Mahaprabhu immediately woke up when he heard that bhajan. So when Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya actually saw these Mahaprabhu's dealings, and then he had a conversation with Mahaprabhu, and he actually saw that Mahaprabhu was in a dangerous situation, according to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Not dangerous in terms of anything else, but because he was a sannyasi, he was not very learned. According to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Mahaprabhu was not very learned. He had not much of philosophy. He was eating too much prasad. He was just gulping down different amounts of prasad. He was singing too much. He was dancing too much. For a sannyasi to dance too much is also not nice. In many instances, like that one instance where the old lady got on top of him, was also not nice, because a woman touching the body of sannyasi is not nice. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was like, this Mahaprabhu needs to become more serious, otherwise he will fall down from the sannyas level. And of course, Mahaprabhu was very young. He was in his 20s at that particular point. So then he suggested to Mahaprabhu that you need to learn the Vedanta, you need to study the different scriptures, so that you become stuck in your vows that you have taken as a sannyasi. And even in sannyas, actually there are different levels of sannyasi, and they are defined by the name or the lineage in one comes. So for Mahaprabhu, his sannyas lineage, the Bharati or the Bharatis, Keshava Bharati, where he comes from, was actually not the best of the sannyas lineage. He was like in between. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, the Sarvabhaum is generally a title given to a king. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya actually had the best of the titles in terms of the sannyas candidate, not sannyas, in terms of the candidates of a scholar. And so he wanted to give such scholarly titles to Mahaprabhu. He said, we will change your name as well and we will give you a scholarly title. So, like Prabhupada mentions in this verse, the base of Nyaya, or the philosophical conclusion, was actually in a place in Bihar which was known as Mithila. And Mithila was very famous at that particular point.
It's in Nepal?
No, Bihar. In Bihar. Yeah, comes in. I think the northern part of Bihar that comes in. I think today Mithila is become famous for even musical attributions, different classical elements that comes in. And even today, I think Mithila has quite some contribution to the Vedic science. There are many gurukulas that exist in Mithila, and especially even musical sciences that they teach in Mithila. So at that particular moment, they would not allow anyone to write down the scriptures or the Nyaya philosophy as such. But Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he actually wrote it down. He went to Navadvip and he established a school. But actually before he went to Navadvip, he went to another place. He went to Banaras or Varanasi also to study the Vedanta. So he further studied, first he did from Mithila, then he went to Banaras, which is also known as the hub for studying Vedanta at that particular moment. And even today actually there are many gurukulas that exist in Banaras. And then he went to Navadvip to establish a school. So the Pandits of Mithila, they were not very happy with what Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya did. So much so that it's described that they sent assassins to kill Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya because he established a school over there. They wanted people just to come to Mithila and not anywhere else. So you can imagine like the Brahmana Pandits sending assassins to kill someone, what do they actually study, So that's how scholarly Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was. When Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya saw the position of Mahaprabhu, he became very concerned. But many of the other devotees tried to explain to him, saying that no, you don't understand who Mahaprabhu is. Like for example, it's described that Gadadhar Pandit, he went to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and he gave him many scriptural evidences of who Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is. But Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya did not agree. He gave the explanations that actually Krishna is Tri-yogi. Like he comes only 3 times in a cycle of the 4 yogas. As Leela Avatar, he cannot come down as Mahaprabhu, which actually is scripturally right also. In terms of Leela Avatar, there are only 3 Leela Avatars, or 3 times the Leela Avatars can come in a yoga cycle. So Mahaprabhu does not appear in every yoga cycle. But then Gadadhar Pandit would explain that Mahaprabhu has not come down as a Leela avatar. He can come down as a Yuga avatar. And therefore he's come down as Kali Yuga avatar. And here he's giving something even beyond what the other avatars of Krishna gave. So then he quotes a verse. Krishna Varnam Tvisa Krishnam Sangopanga Ashtra Parshadam Yagnai Sankirtana Prayar Yajanti Sumedasha. In the age of Kali, intelligent persons perform congregational chanting to worship the incarnation of Godhead, who constantly sings the name of Krishna. Although his complexion is not blackish, he is Krishna himself. He is accompanied by his associates, servants, weapons, and confidential companions. So Gadadhar Pandit is trying to explain to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya that here he's come down and he constantly sings the names of Krishna. But he is not the same as the other yoga avatars and other avatars that come in over here. And one can only understand him by his mercy, because otherwise it's not possible. Because in actually there are not enough evidences to talk about Mahaprabhu being Krishna himself. Because if you look even in Vrindavan, most of the temples actually have Gaura Nitai deities, or they have some form of Krishna present there. But at the same time, many of the Brajvasis, they don't necessarily accept Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as an incarnation of Krishna. Even, for example, the Vallabhacharya Sampradaya, who comes from Vallabhacharya, Vallabhacharya actually met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as well. And there is a conversation that's recorded between them where actually Chaitanya Mahaprabhu disagreed with the conclusion of Vallabhacharya, because Vallabhacharya was more on the Vatsalya Bhav, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted him to go beyond that perspective. So there was a conversation where they disagreed. So Vallabhacharya even met Mahaprabhu, but at the same time his followers and Vallabhacharya probably himself never accepted Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to be an incarnation of Krishna himself. So most of the North Indian lineages, even of the Vaishnava lineages, they don't accept Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Kali Yuga avatar of Krishna. But that's why Radha Pandit describes that more than philosophical proof, one needs the mercy of Mahaprabhu to understand who he really is. So then Gadadhar Pandit is explaining, Kahi bar kate nahe, kahile keha na bujhe, aishe chitra chaitanya ranga, se hi bujite pare, chaitanya kripa yan re, haye kandra dasanu dasa sangha. Such topics are not to be discussed freely, because if they are, no one will understand them. Such are the wonderful pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Onto one who is able to understand, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has shown mercy by giving him the association of the servant of his own servant. That's why Dasa Anudasa Sangha. So one thing is to be Dasa Anudasa, is to be servant of the Lord, but Sangha, to get association of the Dasa Anudasa, is mercy by itself. So again, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya replied to this statement saying, how can you say that you have received this mercy? Maybe you are just assuming this is mercy, but it is not, and you have come to your conclusion by your own. And then he said, okay, let me have a discussion with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, let me sit down with him. Maybe I'll teach him some Vedanta, and then he will understand who he really is, and he will reveal his real self to you. And then, so he invited Mahaprabhu over for Prashadam, and it was meant to be only a Prashadam meal, but they had a discussion for 7 days. Wow. Mahaprabhu spoke, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya spoke the Vedas, the Vedanta to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So 7 days he continuously spoke and spoke and spoke different conclusions. And Mahaprabhu very patiently was listening. Not a word he said. Not once he was disturbed by what Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said. 7 days he sat there. So when Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati used to give classes for 4 or 5 hours, everybody used to be... it's described that sometimes only Srila Prabhupada used to sit there, and that's why Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was very pleased with Prabhupada, and Prabhupada used to sit there for 4 hours. But most of the others, it was impossible to sit for so long. 4 hours, but here Mahaprabhu himself sat for 7 days. One thing good is, Srila Prabhupada's classes were only 40 minutes long. Prabhupada's classes were not so long. Because otherwise our attention span would be, it doesn't last for more than that long. And we will see, like, over time, as ISKCON goes over the next few hundreds and hundreds of years, our classes will have to go shorter and shorter, because the attention span in Kali Yuga will gradually go down. There will be a point where the speaker will speak, and after 20 minutes, half an hour, everyone's gone. So over time, our class durations will also reduce. But here Mahaprabhu sat down. So in the end of the 7 days, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya asked him, like, did you understand what I spoke? Because you have not asked a single question, nor have you praised my words. And he said, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then responded to him, saying that you that I have very patiently heard, because it is the duty of the sannyasi to also hear the Vedas and the Vedanta and different philosophies. So the actual Vedas, the Shrutis and the Stutis are very easy for me to understand. But I don't understand your bhashya or your purports or your explanations. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was confused. Like, imagine saying this to Prabhupada, right? The Gita verses and the Bhagavatam verses I can understand. Your purpose I don't understand. So it's like, so Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was confused. Like, the bhashya is meant to explain the verses, the philosophical verses. It gives the explanations. So to say that you understand the verses but you don't understand the bhashyas is confusing. Like, how is that possible? Like it's like the person explaining the Veda, the shloka does not understand the shloka himself, and that's why you're not able to understand. But the person sitting in the audience very well understands the shloka. So then it becomes a very messy situation. This is exactly what happened with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. So he was shocked and he's like, how is that possible? Like my conclusions you don't understand, my bhashya you don't understand. And then Mahaprabhu starts to explain that actually what explanations you have given are mayavad, are actually offensive to the actual conclusions. The Vedas are very clear on what devotional service is meant to be, who Krishna is, who God is. But the conclusions that you have derived are bogus in Prabhupada's terms. Mahaprabhu used the words that anyone who hears such philosophy will be doomed.
Oh.
And immediately Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was taken aback, like, because he was known to be, like, he was given the title Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. He was the king of all the philosophies, all the nyayas, all the 6 kinds of different ways of philosophy was given. And he could defeat his own explanations and at the same time explain it again in a logical manner, as he would call it. He had given it to so many different sannyasis, and here a young sannyasi is defeating him. So then he said, okay, let's talk about one particular verse and we will see how your conclusion is on that particular verse. So Mahaprabhu accepted, okay, let's discuss this verse. Okay, which verse do we discuss? So then they decided they will discuss Atma Ramasya Muneyo. So the verse says, Atma Ramasya Muneyo nirganti api urukrame kurvanti ahitukim bhaktim ittam bhuta guno hari. So this was the verse. Then they said they will discuss and we will see who understands the verse or not. So Prabhupada's explanations. All different varieties of Atma Ramas, those who take pleasure in Atma or spirit self, especially those established on the path of self-realization, though freed from all kinds of material bondage, desire to render unalloyed devotional service unto the personality of Godhead. This means that the Lord possesses transcendental qualities and therefore can attract everyone, including liberated souls. So even for me, when I was reading this particular section, each verse I had to read it multiple times to even understand what did I read for that section. So when Prabhupada completed the translations to Chaitanya Charitamrita, one of the disciples of Prabhupada, I'm not sure who it was, but it's described in that verses, that he went to Prabhupada and he said, Prabhupada, I'm not able to understand anything in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Like, especially these sections of this Vedanta, these philosophies, this Nyaya, Mayavad, who are these different types of Mayavadis and Vedantists and stuff, and it's very confusing for me. And Prabhupada looked back and said, very good. He's like, very good. Don't understand their philosophies. If you do, you will be doomed. Because in some of these places, it's even described that, for example, the Buddhists are better than the Mayavadis. Because the Buddhists actually reject the Vedas and they don't give any sort of another explanation of the Vedas. They don't give a bogus explanation of the Vedas. They just reject the Vedas in itself. Therefore, they're better than the Vedantists, and they're better than the Mayavadis, and they're better from all these others who give a wrong conclusion of the Vedas. Therefore, the Buddhists are better in terms of philosophy, because it's better not to discuss the Vedas than to discuss something and then to deride another meaning out of it, and to specifically deride the personal form of the Lord. So Mahaprabhu even explains in one of the places that these actually comes in Gnostics, or they're like atheist. So Mahaprabhu even describes these Vedantists, these Shankara followers, the Buddhists, because all of them who don't accept the personal form of the Lord are actually atheists in Mahaprabhu's explanation. So in that ways, even Christianity or Islam don't really accept a personal form of the Lord. So even Mahaprabhu would categorize them in the atheism philosophy. But actually they're theists, they believe in it. But because they don't accept a personal form of the Lord, therefore they go in that category. So again, it's very difficult to understand these particular elements. And actually there is so much in just this Atmarama purport as well, which I will not get into, because if we get into, we will spend hours and hours together. But what happened is, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave some explanations to this Atmarama verse. There are actually different explanations in different places. In some places it describes that Chaitanya Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya gave 13 explanations to the Atmarama verse, like the way to understand the Atmarama verse. In some places described that he gave 3. From the Prabhupada's purport, it says 1 explanation that Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya gave. But anyway, whatever it is, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave 4 times or 3 times that number of explanations. So he explained them in 64 different ways of those Atmarama verse. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was shocked, because when he saw that how philosophically well Mahaprabhu was situated, he was completely shocked that 7 days Mahaprabhu didn't speak a word and he was hearing my words. But when he heard it, his pride was all gone, because he was defeated in that perspective. A Vedantist like Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was defeated. But at the same time, it's described that Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya still had some pride in him. And the same thing, like for example, even in Dhruva Maharaj's instance, so when Dhruva Maharaj actually had a darshan of Vishnu in front of him, and he still had that material desire in him that he wanted, even though there's this famous verse where he quoted Kacham Vichinman Napidevya Ratnam Swamin Kritarthosmi Varannayache. So Dhruva Maharaj actually said that what I was asking for was like a piece of glass as compared to a real diamond. The diamond is actually asking for bhakti of the Lord. But Dhruva Maharaj wanted like a kingdom, wanted the position of his father and blah 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 different stuff. But when he saw Krishna or Vishnu, he immediately realized that he quoted this verse and he said that I was asking for a piece of glass instead of diamonds. But he was still not completely purified, even though he had the darshan of Vishnu. So what did Vishnu do after that? He placed the shank on top of his head so that he will be completely purified of all that material entanglement. So that's the same situation with us. So even though we might accept the different philosophical conclusions of what our gurus explain, and we have a darshan of the deities, for example, but we still have material hankering inside us. So what did Mahaprabhu do for this Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya? He showed him the Sadbhuj form of the Lord. So this Sadbhuj form that we see in the Jagannath temple, actually I have not seen it in the Jagannath temple. I don't know where it is in the Jagannath temple. Unfortunate for me. I don't know if anyone else has seen it in the Jagannath temple. This Sadbhuj form, I don't know where it is. But Prabhupada says it is there somewhere. So next time we go, we have to see it somewhere. So the Sadbhuj form is actually very beautiful because it depicts all the 3 incarnations together. So after he was shown the Sadbuj form, then what's his name? Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was completely purified, and he started to dance and he started to scream and he started to enjoy the pastimes of the Lord and Mahaprabhu's association. So much so that he composed 100 verses, and one of the verses it says, Vairagya Vida Nija Bhakti Yoga Shikshartham Eka Purusha Puranaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Sharira Dhari Kripa Budhir Yastam Aham Prapadye. Let me take shelter of Shri Chaitanya, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Shri Krishna, who has descended in the form of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to teach us real knowledge. His devotional service and detachment from whatever does not foster Krishna consciousness. He has descended because he is the ocean of transcendental mercy. Let me surrender onto his lotus feet. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya immediately surrendered to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he accepted that he is an incarnation of Krishna. And there was a nice exchange that took place between Gopinath Acharya and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, because it was because of Gopinath Acharya that Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya became a devotee. So one thing is that Mahaprabhu gave him the Sadbuj Darshan, but actually Mahaprabhu did not give it to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya because of his mercy in itself. There was one element which is described over here, that it is because of Gopinath Acharya that Mahaprabhu gave mercy to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. So it's described that even for us, we cannot approach Krishna straight away. Therefore, it's described in this verse that we have to become a servant of the Dasanudas. So Gopinath Acharya actually recommended to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that you please make him a devotee. And therefore for us also, when we meet non-devotees, when we meet anyone on the streets, any person who's favorable to Krishna consciousness, it is important for us to become like Gopinath Acharya and to pray for them in that instance, that please Krishna, to Prabhupada, that please make this person a devotee, give them a chance for Krishna consciousness, because it is our prayer that Krishna listens to in that particular instance. Just by Krishna to shower a mercy on that soul is not enough. It is the Dasanudas, it is all of our responsibilities to recommend someone to Krishna, whether they are eligible or whether they are not. It's also described one should not give the holy name to someone who is not these things, but Prabhupada took the offense and gave the holy name to everyone regardless if they are eligible or not. And Prabhupada mentioned that like one of the devotees asked Prabhupada that it's described that one needs to have so much of Sukriti to become a devotee of Krishna. Like, how is it that we got that Sukriti? And Prabhupada said, no, you didn't have any Sukriti. You had no qualification. You had no piety. You had nothing. I created that for you. So Prabhupada created that because he recommended those souls to Krishna. So same way we should also do that when we are out on the streets, when we are out giving classes, anyone we find, we should take a moment to pray to Krishna that please take this person, make him a devotee, make him your servant, make him bow down at your feet some way or the other. Because Krishna listens to that one desire. Prabhupada will listen to that one desire, and this is the lesson that we can learn from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's instance, because it is not just a normal instance, it is because of Gopinath Acharya that all of this pastime took place. And Mahaprabhu actually says this, that it is because Gopinath Acharya prayed that I accepted Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Otherwise, I would not have accepted him at all. So the next morning, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went for darshan to Jagannath temple, and he got some nice remnants and flowers. And it's described that Mahaprabhu went to have darshan when Jagannath was brushing his teeth, and he was doing his morning pastimes, and he took that maha and he ran to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's house to give him the remnants of Jagannath. and when he reached, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was sleeping at that particular moment. It was early in the morning, and when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu woke him up with those remnants, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya immediately took the remnants and started eating them. He did not even brush his teeth. So Mahaprabhu told him, "What are you doing? Like, you're a scholar. How can you, these habits, these small things, you're supposed to be thoughtful of it because people are following you. How can you eat without brushing your teeth?" And then Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya quoted a nice verse where he says, "Shushkam paryushitam vapi nitam va duradeshatah papti matrena bhoktavyam natra kalena vrichrana." So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, one should eat the Mahaprasad of the Lord immediately upon receiving it, even though it is dried up, stale, or brought from a distant country. One should consider neither time nor place. So if one gets Mahaprasad, so usually when we get Mahaprasad, we're like, okay, I'm going to eat this with my lunch, I'm going to eat this with my dinner, or I will eat it later on, maybe we will keep it on the side. But here this verse is completely the opposite. As soon as one gets Mahaprasad, you have to honor it, even if you have not brushed your teeth.
Wow.
You have to immediately offer it, regardless of even time or a place. So next time if you want to wake someone up, wake them up at 2 a.m. Give them some Mahaprasad. Maybe according to this verse, you have to eat now. So this is how the exchange between Mahaprabhu and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya became. Bhattacharya became like a very close associate of Mahaprabhu, where they had such exalted pastimes of the Lord. So we should pray that we get the mercy of someone like Gopinath Acharya, who recommends us to the Lord, and we also get the mercy to get the darshan of the Lord, and ultimately to become an associate, because even though he was blaspheming through his Mayavad philosophy to Krishna himself and to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as soon as he became a devotee, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu forgot everything and had these pastimes with him. So that's the beauty of Mahaprabhu, that's the beauty of the holy name in itself, that everything purifies us. The holy name purifies us, that everything in our past is not to be remembered. That's Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's past that we don't remember. So thank you all. There is so much in this philosophy. Of course, if you want to read more, there is teachings of Lord Chaitanya. 13th chapter which describes, actually 13, 14, 15, the 3 chapters that Prabhupada gives for these explanations. And just one time reading is not enough. Probably 10, 20 times to even start to understand the philosophy. And of course in Madhya Leela also 6th chapter this is described as a conversation. So let's continue praying that we never understand the Vedanta philosophy. we remain with bhakti. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya ki jai, Gopinath Acharya ki jai, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Srila Prabhupada jai. Any questions, any comments? Yes.
Krishna, Patita Pavana prabhu. Thank you for the class. Could you explain just briefly, in few words, what the Sadbhuja form of Lord Chaitanya represents?
Maybe is it okay? We can show the photo as well.
Sure. Yeah.
It's nicer to. Of course, the Sadbhuj has 3 forms. Actually, 6 arms.
6 arms.
So Sad, Bhuj. So 2 representing which are the downward ones, which has a sannyasi Kamantalu, and what was the other hand?
Danda maybe.
Danda, the sannyas Danda. So that is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then you have the middle 2 forms which are holding a flute of Krishna. And then you have the upward forms, which is one is Trishul. Yeah, one is Trishul, and what is the other one? Bow and arrow, which is of Lord Ram. And those are described as green, blue, and golden. They are actually 3 different colors that show as depiction also.
Come in.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one.
Well, I don't know if it's the good picture.
Yeah, the
We-
colors
we-
are not very
We
clearly
don't
depicted,
really see.
but you can see the danda, you can see the flute, you can see the. It's a really nice form. It depicts all three avatars of the Lord. I don't think any ISKCON temple of ours has a Sadbhuj deity.
Yeah, I never saw.
Actually, when the Dubai devotees were presenting a plan for a future temple, one of them depiction was that we will have the first Sadbhuj deity of ISKCON in Dubai.
Wow.
But of course, that permission never came through. Sadbhuj has not manifested.
Yeah, looks like it's very intimate form, right?
Yes, because it is
Yeah.
only shown to.
Yeah. So not that everyone can see it, right? Not everyone is kind of authorized to see it somehow.
This one is not so.
So there's green.
No, it's not the same.
You can see, but you cannot have.
No.
It was shown to whom this form?
To
Sarvabhauma.
Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya.
Sorry, I don't find good picture.
The earlier one, that was the best.
Really?
There
Yeah.
are some temples in Navadvip which
Because
has.
there are no more nice picture than this.
No, but there are some temples which have Sadbhuj deity in Navadvip as well.
What do you know?
Actually,
Yes.
And
So in for example in Bengal and Katwa, this is the deity that is there. This deity is very old, from Mahaprabhu's time.
okay. And just to say that you never saw it in Jagannath Puri temple, but in the purport Prabhupada says Sadbhuj deity is still situated at
Yeah.
at one hand of the Jagannath Puri. So
and
yeah, that's what I said. But we don't know like where exactly. Like
I don't know. Yeah, I've been to Puri, but I don't know. I never knew that there was a Sadbhuj deity somewhere. But even otherwise, I don't know. No one spoke about it.
and Prabhupada said daily Sankirtan performances
Yeah.
take place in this part of the temple.
Need to go and visit just for the
Yeah.
Sadbhuj deity now.
Amazing. Try.
And because usually we just visit the Patita Pavana Jagannath who's in the front, and then we go to visit the.
Just behind, like if you come from outside, on the like it's a very dangerous type of stairs. There's nothing there also upstairs.
You went there?
But they don't allow people to go on top, right? They do?
It's not the top of the temple. It's
Oh, you can see. Oh.
If this is temple's dome,
Hmm.
we can do the first floor like
I don't remember Narshika Dev also. But
Amazing.
I've only been once in my life.
Okay. Thank you.
I went there 3 times.
Wow.
And have you seen Sadbhuj? No?
Bimla Devi, I know. Like just after offering Bhoga to Jagannath Ji, the
Oh, yeah.
Bhoga comes to Bimla Devi.
Yeah.
Wow. This temple is amazing in
Yeah.
itself.
And there are so many deities.
Like the demigods stay there actually.
Actually, now there's a lot of. After the corridor was done, they also want to redo the Jagannath temple to build it to its original form. So if you see, like many sections of the Jagannath temple have like a plaster on top of them to cover the real architecture of the temple and the stone designs and all. So the new government wants to remove those coverings and to show the real temple and what it was.
you collected the references from Chaitanya Charitamrita?
From different places, from teachings of Lord Chaitanya, from Chaitanya Charitamrita, from 2 different other lecture sources which come from different places. Like Hare Prabhu has given a series of talks on Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, and also Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj has given series of talks. So I heard both Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj and
Because there is a little bit like incompatibility with Chaitanya Charitamrita. Because it was actually Gopinath Acharya It was not Gadadhar.
Who saw the Sadbuj form?
No, he
To
was doing
recommend.
argument with Sarvabhauma. And there also is
Yeah,
mentioned.
so here there are, that's what even like for example the number of explanations that the Atmarama verse, in every place there is a different number that is
Yeah,
given in that
Chaitanya
Atmarama.
Charitamrita is written that Mahaprabhu explained in 18 way and not touching with Sarvabhauma's.
But here
explanation.
there's one description with 64 ways is described. So yeah, it's different explanations. Even like for example, many of the verses, like for example, there are two main verses which Prabhupada quotes that we still say of Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya. So what happened is Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya actually wrote it on a palm leaf
Yes.
and sent it to Mahaprabhu for along with his Prashadam. And Mahaprabhu, when he saw the glorification in those verses, he immediately tore it.
Yes.
But Mukunda wrote it
on the wall.
somewhere, yeah. And that's how we remember those verses even today. So
One
yeah.
was the Bharagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yoga.
Yes.
And the next one was the Kalantak Nija Bhakti Yoga Loya, like this.
So it's nice. Even like for example, in different places it describes one is Brahaspati, one talks about how he's another gopi. So even who the personalities are changes in different instances, but maybe in different universes, different places.
Yeah.
Right. So thank you all. Oh, sorry, you had something? Yeah. Okay, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Chaitanya Charitamrita ki
Sure.
Bhakti Pavana prabhu ki Pavana ki
Sample devotees. Hare Krishna. Hare
Actually, Chaitanya Charitamrita is so nice because they are both Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was like Gopinathacharya was the he married the sister of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya.
Yes, oh, brother,
So,
yeah.
their relationship with like making joke